I mean, the organized greed has such an impact on our electoral political system that it makes it so truncated. We got a choice between neo-fascists like Brother Trump or milquetoast neoliberals like Brother Biden. Wow, well, I'm so happy to make a world-shaking decision. You know what I mean? And you think of all the decent people in America, all the decent people in the country. How do we end up so hemorrhaged with these mediocre folk at the top?
I see Biden is, but I see Biden is down with his black folks. Can I just read? I said I looked into this.
Sure.
Here's some of the things he's done.
Sure.
Appointed one of the most diverse cabinets in history. First, of course, black and female vice president. Directed federal agencies on the first day to address the impacts of systemic racism. Extended the eviction moratorium that disproportionately helped black families remain safe during COVID. Executive order to improve educational opportunities for black people. Barred the use of choke.
All right, we got to go back real quick just to address these points because this is like a fucking parody of like elite liberalism.
Yeah, it's like propaganda.
Yeah, literally, like, look at this, like, straight. Biden has been the #1, president to engage in tokenism while not actually doing anything to materially, substantively help the black community or, the working class and poor in this country. Appointed one of the most diverse cabinets in history. Like, I mean, obviously, I'm in favor of diversity, and that's a good thing. Like, I'd rather there be diversity in the cabinet than just 100% like white people. But that's not really anything that Biden's actually done for minorities, as it says at the top here. What Biden has done for minorities, appointed one of the most diverse cabinets. So unless you're one of the fucking cabinet members that got a sweet freaking gig out of the Biden admin, it's not like that's actually something Biden has done for minorities. It's really, what are you saying?
No, I was just gonna say, do you know what it reminds me of? I was talking to Salisa the other day, and she had to go to that. Salisa's my girlfriend. She had to go to this like a race training awareness whatever thing for work, and she was there. And I think there were only maybe 4 or 5, less than 5 probably, people of color in their meeting, right? Her being like one of them, and one of the little notices on there was like, apologize to minorities, and she was like, it's just like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, this is what the fucking solution that you guys what I mean, and not to call out people who are trying their best or whatever, but it's just like that is exactly the kind of vibe you get from all of these kinds of things. It's like, we're not going to actually do anything, but we're sorry.
Yeah, pretty much. And then, it goes on. First black, Asian American, and female vice president. Wow, I can't believe the black community doesn't love Joe Biden. He appointed the first black, Asian American, and female vice president. What the hell, guys? What's going on? But yeah, who also, by the way, he left out, was the top cop of California, responsible for imprisoning freaking mothers of truant children and locking up untold numbers of black people for crimes such as smoking cannabis. So, that is a pretty crazy thing. I get to put number 2. What has Biden done for minorities? Well, he picked a token black woman for VP. Shouldn't you be happy? No. Directed federal agencies to address the impacts of systemic racism on black communities and advance racial equity. Okay, what has that fucking led to? You can't just say, oh, I directed them to solve the issue. And okay, might as well say I directed federal agencies to, create world peace. Okay, what does that fucking mean?
We're looking into it. We're looking into world peace.
Extended the eviction moratorium that disproportionately helped black families remain in safe housing during COVID. Wasn't that eviction moratorium technically started under Donald Trump? Yeah. I mean, would you give him credit for helping minorities because he started it in the first place? Come on.
Could easily flip that on its head and be like, ended the eviction moratorium that disproportionately helped black families remain safe.
So true. And it's not like it was permanent. He fucking ended it. So they all became homeless. Executive order to improve educational opportunities for black people. Again, I haven't really seen anything in the way of statistics or evidence that has gone any ways to help any actual people. Again, this all sounds like virtue signaling. But what's that?
Oh, I was just going to say, what would actually improve educational opportunities for black people? An executive order that would cancel all of student debt and make it basically difficult or impossible for them to get funding without affordable tuition costs. that can be covered through taxation, legislation that makes everybody able to go to college for free. Those kinds of things would improve educational opportunities for all people, including Black people, who typically are the most marginalized when it comes to educational opportunities due to obviously the systemic barriers in front of them. But he's still looking into that, Gavin. He's thinking about it. He's looking into it.
Yeah, remember when Biden was like, we're going to ban menthol cigarettes and fucking tried to frame it as like a big win for the Black community? I don't think that's actually happened yet, but I remember we reacted to it on the show with our friend of the show, RJ, maybe a year or so ago. And it was like Biden admin is banning menthol cigarettes and like Swisher Sweet cigars. What a huge win for the Black community, because I guess Black people smoke more menthols than white people or something.
Well, that's the stigma, right? That's why it was so patently fucking crazy, right? It was just like one, let's target the kind of cigarettes that are traditionally smoked by minority community, namely the Black community, but also just poor people in general, right? Newport's menthols are like the most popular fucking like cigarette and poor communities writ large for the most part. And so it just felt like a very clear, explicit, targeted, like, penalty on poor Black communities. Meanwhile, like, the shit that is like more in favor with like white communities wasn't going to be regulated, right? Like your fucking American spirits were going to be fine.
Also, it's just a misunderstanding of like nicotine addiction. Like if you smoke menthols, and then all of a sudden menthols are no longer available to buy, it's not like you're just going to be like, well, I guess I'm no longer addicted to tobacco. Aren't I healthier now? No, you're going to buy regular cigarettes and get used to those, even if you don't like it. So it's basically just inconveniencing and annoying nicotine addicts who, again, aren't going to stop smoking because of the lack of menthol cigarettes. They're just going to switch to regular fucking cigarettes. Again, a total misunderstanding. That's like saying, oh, if you're an alcoholic and you prefer whiskey, but then we ban whiskey, it's like you're just going to start drinking gin. Like, you're still addicted to the substance itself, not the fucking flavor.
Executive order to improve educational opportunities for Black people. Barred the use of chokeholds. DOJ sued Georgia over discriminatory voting laws. His cash relief program cut Black child poverty by 40%. And Juneteenth is now a federal holiday, and first Black woman at the Supreme Court. No good?
No,
None of it?
Those are wonderful, given
But why do you call him milquetoast then? I mean,
he's milquetoast because he still is tied to Wall Street. He's got crimes of foreign policy.
I know, but he's a politician.
Saudi Arabia is mistreating the Yemenites folk, the Israeli crimes against the Palestinians. He's not going to say a word about. And look, he's in town right now. We just had the People's Summit, as you know.
I know.
Right across from him, right?
Well, we had the Summit of the Americas.
With Latin America. We are on the cutting edge of human rights. We are USA. In Latin America, on the cutting edge of human rights, with one.
Do your white guy impression again.
We are on the.
That's great.
No, but all the precious brothers and sisters in Latin America, we overthrowing democratic parties. We in friendly terms with dictators. Let's just be honest and candid, and most importantly,
yes, let's be honest and candid and say we're living in the real world. Nobody gets everything. Nobody gets everything. It's like you're such an absolutist.
Oh, I'm not at all.
But you are. I mean,
I like how Cornel West like points out the fact that Biden is literally overseeing like war crimes abroad, and Bill Maher's response is, "Well, what can you can't get everything. Like, what do you want? Just fucking everything in the world, man? Like, obviously war crimes are going to happen. He's a politician."
Dude, I know. This is what's crazy. This is a classic maneuver by the right wing, right? Whenever you just explicitly lay out the horrors of anything, whether that's, how unjust it is that people die because they can't afford medical care, or they die massively in debt because of it, or whether you're pointing out the war crimes of the United States, or, worker exploitation, or animal abuse and cruelty and all these. Yeah, bro. World's not perfect, bro. Yeah, bro. It's going to be tough, bro. But hey, bro, this is the way it is, bro. Hey, bro, like, you know what I mean? It's just like, hey, yeah, actually, I want to change the way things are because I don't like this fucking shit. And I don't think you would either if you were a fucking diamond miner in Sierra Leone, okay? I'm just saying.
Right, right. And it's not like this stuff is necessarily even out of Biden's control. It's not like, oh, well, there's bad things going on around the world. What the hell do you want him to do about it? Like, no, we are actively supplying Saudi Arabia with the money and the weapons that they are using to carry out the genocide and the starvation of Yemen, which Cornel West referenced. We don't have to be doing that. We don't, it's not like just the fucking natural order of things. Like, no, that's a choice. That's a policy choice. Same with the fact that we arm and fund the apartheid state of Israel, which commits ethnic cleansing and genocide of the Palestinian people. So, it's very fair to point out that, like, just because Biden did some kind of virtue signaling, like, let's make Juneteenth a holiday, it's like, okay, that doesn't actually help anyone. And meanwhile, there are actual, people of color, whatever you want to call them, in different parts of the world that are being oppressed under the boot of America and its allies, genocide, ethnic cleansing, apartheid states. Are those people like less? Are those people not count? And maybe that's not why the Black community doesn't fuck with Biden. Maybe they don't, know or care about those issues, but it's still worth pointing out that, like, if you're going to pretend to care about minorities and non-white people, like, take a look at the, like, fucking war crimes and apartheid states we're sanctioning and, funding abroad.
100%. You cannot be like, oh, I support, people of people of color without supporting the entire global community, right? Because well, let's talk about the reason that we have fucking for hundreds and hundreds of years systematically underdeveloped and persecuted the global South, right, and other parts of the world as well, for reasons that are steeped in white settler colonial racism, right? Inseparable from those things, right? And our militaristic vision of the world, right? The Monroe Doctrine, all of these kinds of things that we still predicate our, and people pretend like it's not the case. So this is just ancient stuff. It's absolutely not. The United States is in firm control at all times of every single fucking thing that is going on in our hemisphere. I'm serious. Every fucking, from north of Canada to fucking south of Chile, right? Like they are on it. And then it's like we're obviously on it, and fucking, we have military bases all over the world, but particularly in our region, we just have our hands in every single fucking piece of the pie that you could possibly imagine. And when those people try and oust us from that, i.e. Cuba, Venezuela, right, you see what happens to them, etc. That's a little bit besides the point, but 100% all of these things that we're talking about, it's not the way the world has to work like Bill Maher is trying to frame it. No, these are conscious, explicit decisions that we do basically in favor of the United States, like white supremacist capitalist order, which is essentially what it is.
No.
Okay, so
no, not
but
really.
you're like you mentioned, he's talking to Saudi Arabia. I agree.
You should reset the button.
Yes, of course.
They committing crimes against the
It's a
president.
tremendous hypocrisy. He's a politician. That's what part of the gig is. Wait a second. Let me just finish.
Okay.
Yes, he doesn't want to invite the people to the Avenue of the Americas.
You got New York City on your mind.
City, the summit of the Americas.
No harm in that. No harm in that. I live in Harlem.
Because he didn't invite Cuba and Nicaragua and Venezuela because they are led by dictators, which I agree is so silly, because he's about to meet with Saudi Arabia because they have the gas.
And he's got a gangster from Brazil sitting with him, meeting in private.
But if you don't get the people gas, and the people have a lot of gas already. Yeah. If you don't get
then you could make the same argument for why we should keep getting it from Russia, which is who we cut off, and is a large part of the reason why the gas prices are so high right now. It's like the same logic you're using to say or to excuse Biden's closeness with Saudi Arabia. You could use that same logic to be like, well, why did you cut off Russia in the first place? They're also bad guys. They're also doing bad things. So Saudi Arabia, though. So how is it any better?
Yep, that is perfect pushback. And also, I just love how as soon as Cornel West wants to, he can steal Bill Maher's own audience away from him. Like, he'll just make an expression or a face, and even if Bill's trying to like push this like pro-Biden agenda, like Cornel West gives him the eye or gives the audience a look. I imagine this is in front of a live audience, unless they have a recorded fucking laugh track. Yeah, it's a live audience, I imagine. So anyway, I just think that's interesting how well he's able to work the crowd even in Bill's home turf. Yeah.
And honestly, to Cornel West's credit, he's really good at that. He's good at reading the room and kind of talking to the crowd, meeting them where they're at. You know, it's not like he comes in here all defensive and all bitter or anything like that. You know, he's actually, you know, trying to have this conversation on the terms that are laid out, which is a really good thing as far as like communication goes. He knows the audience.
They're going to lose badly, but they're going to lose even worse. It's just going to elect a Republican. So this is the world that we live in. People do have to make compromises, even good people.
But there's a difference between, and you know, based on your wonderful Ivy League training at Cornell University.
One of the few colleges you have not taught at.
Prudentia, phronesis, practical wisdom is not opportunistic judgment. Just like pragmatism is not opportunism. If you make wise judgments relative to constraints, principles can be compromised, but the principles are still retained. Once you have very little principles, it's all about power, all about manipulation, all about spectacle, all about image. That's very much what American politics is about these days in both parties. Spectacle, superficial. And so when you say, well, if they're hypocrites, we got to allow for the hypocrisy. No, not at all, especially when you're blues men like you and I, because I know your sensibility in terms of how you wrestle with catastrophe. When you
This is how Cornel West, every time he puts a mad pushback on Bill Maher, he knows how to reel him back in. He's going to tell him he loves him, that he's a good person, and that he knows in his heart he's already arrived at the same position that Cornel's at. It's a brilliant technique that I think people should, study in debates, right? Because there's so much of into like debate bro culture, right? And a lot of the stuff that Gavin and I react to just for fun, because it's entertaining. There's so much like, I want to embarrass you. I want to make you look like you know nothing. I want to make you look pathetic for ever even daring to challenge my ideas. It's all about masculinity. It's all about intellectual chokeholds, right? Cornel West has the exact opposite approach to all debates, because he's so much more interested in converting them, that he never wants to lose them and make them shut down. So, you know, he'll say, oh, you've got too much blue spirit in you, just like me, brother Bill. Like, he's buttering him up again so that he can lay another truth bomb on him in a second and not lose him and get him to shut down. It's really brilliant.
Blues man or blues woman, what does that mean? You're going to tell the truth with style and a smile, no matter what the consequences are, and walk off and say, I hope to do better, try again, fail better, like Samuel Beckett said.
Right. Okay, I think I'm down with that.
And you would agree with that?
Yes.
You would agree with that?
But I mean, you mentioned Cornell, and you know, you've taught at a few colleges, and
just three.
Just three. Okay.
Harvard, Yale, and Princeton.
Pretty good ones. Yeah. Okay. And now you're at another one.
Now I'm at Union throughout the seminary. Yeah, the great seminary.
Okay, and I love what you wrote maybe a year ago, when you said Howard University had cut their classics department, and you condemned that, and I thought that was great, because it was anti-tribal. You know, you were saying we need the Western canon.
Oh, of course. I mean, Diderot, Shakespeare, Dante, the greatest literary figure of the last 150 years. And Chekhov himself. And it's hard to say good things about Russians these days, given that vicious attack on our precious Ukrainian brothers and sisters.
Right.
But Chekhov lives. Just like after Hitler, gangster that he was, Beethoven lives.
Right.
So that we have to be able to make those kind of distinctions. Very important. Very important.
But you said there's a massive failing.
The real breaking news is that Cornel West just revealed himself to be secretly funded by the CIA, Gavin. Wow. This man just opposed Russia. He must be an op.
In our schooling, you said we're schooling, we're not giving education.
That's right.
I don't know if we're even schooling. But I mean, some of that, I mean, anti-racist dogma teaches things like that math can be racist. Things that they associate with whiteness. I'm not sure what that's exactly is, but like being on time. Do you agree with that stuff?
Yeah, but you know, brother, you know me long enough to know that I am a fallible, finite, fallen follower of Jesus of Nazareth. And what that means is that spiritual and moral greatness have nothing to do with skin pigmentation, gender, sexual orientation, or national identity. It has to do with human beings making choices in the name of love and justice, not hatred and revenge. In the name of integrity, honesty, decency and so forth. I mean, you know, I get in trouble by calling Trump a brother. How come you call brother Trump a brother? He's made in the image of God. He chooses to be a gangster.
Right.
He chooses to be.
By the way, once again, just absolute masterclass from Cornel West as far as deflecting these bullshit culture war talking points. Bill Maher tries to, like, you know, drag him down this dumb road of like, oh, isn't there so much fucking wokeness and the critical race theory and the math is racist and like all this stupid right-wing talking points. And Cornel West just, again, counters with an absolute masterclass, basically just, you know, deflects away from the idiocy and it cuts through with substance.
100%, 100%. And you can tell by just how powerful he is, how powerful his words are, just the way that he moves the audience with him, right? This is Bill Maher's show. They're used to getting neoliberal fucking talking points fed to them, the most like stale fucking like 10 years ago's fucking relevant thinkers. Instead, he's able to quickly walk into any environment, speak a universal truth with power and confidence, and he's 100% himself everywhere he goes, and yet he's still able to just be such a force, and a force for good, and exactly like you said, like Bill Maher's like, they're trying to teach that math is racist, and instead of even at all being like, that's a lie, and I don't care if you find like one instance where like somebody's like, oh, in this one school in this one place it did happen, like he's like, it's not even worth his time. He's not going to give one breath of oxygen to that bullshit. He's going to circle it all back to talking about love and justice, and how that's what he's consistently fighting for, and that's what the mission that he's just laid out is about and represents. And come on, Bill, I know you believe in love and justice. Get in this boat with me. And it makes it a big tent politics all about love and justice, and that's what I think Cornel West just does better than probably anybody else, and that's why we look to him.
I was a gangster before I met Jesus, and now I'm a redeemed sinner with gangster proclivities. What meaning what? We're humans all the way down.
Right.
You could be an atheistic brother and sisters. I'm gonna love you anyway, whether you're right or wrong. But at the same time, you and I are honest and candid in our disagreement.
It sounds like you're making an argument against identity politics.
Well, it's against identity politics when it swerves from moral greatness and spiritual greatness and integrity, honesty, decency. Now, somebody like John Coltrane, he is as black as he can be in the most beautiful sense, but a love supreme ain't about just loving black people. It's loving everybody.
Right.
You see what I mean?
I do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just again, an absolute masterclass from Cornel West. I do wish he had pushed back a little bit harder on this, bullshit list of accomplishments that Bill Maher had, put up here about all this like virtue signaling crap that didn't actually improve anyone's quality of life. So I would like to have seen Cornel West really go on the offense there and be like, this is bullshit. Come on. He hasn't actually improved the material conditions of the black community or really any communities. So, maybe he could have gone a little bit more scorched earth in that instance, but overall still, as always, a great performance from Cornel West.